believers, Al-Hur, he was standing and going to Umar ibn Sa'd. He was the one who stopped our beloved Imam Hussein on the second day of Muharram, preventing him from going to Kufa. They say Al-Hur, he went to Umar ibn Sa'd and he told him, "Oh Umar, are you going to let Abu Abdullah, are you going to let our beloved Imam Hussein go, or are you already going to have the war with him?" They say Umar ibn Sa'd, he told him, "By God, this is not my choice. If it was up to me, I would let him go. But your master Yazid and Ibn Ziyad, they want Hussein to be killed." They say Al-Hur in the camp of Umar ibn Sa'd was thinking to himself, thinking of his destiny, thinking, what is he doing to the Imam Hussein? They say Al-Muhajir, another enemy of Allah, someone who knew Hur in the camp of Umar ibn Sa'd, when he saw Al-Hur thinking to himself, hesitant, he saw him and he asked him, "What is it that you're thinking of, Hur? Or Hur, what is you doing? Maybe you're going to give your horse some water. Oh Hur, what's the plan that you have in your mind? Do you plan to charge towards the camp of Hussein?" Al-Hur, he looked at Al-Muhajir and he told him, "Ee wallah, inni ukhayyiru nafsi bayna al-jannati wan-nar." I am giving myself the choice between the heaven and hell. Wallah, la akhtaru ala al-jannati shay'a. By God, I shall not choose anything over heaven. They say Al-Hur, he charged towards Imam Hussein's camp. Al-Hur approached the camp of Imam Hussein with a broken heart, his eyes looking down, shy of what he has done. "Oh my Lord," as he was thinking to himself, "Oh Lord, I have put fear in the heart of the children and the women of the progeny of the Prophet. Would you forgive me for what I have done?" He's asking Imam Hussein, "Sayyidi wa Mawla, ya Aba Abdullah, I am the one who held you back. I am the one who did not allow you to go back. I am the one who stopped you, oh Aba Abdullah. I didn't know that they are gonna do what they are doing now to you. I didn't know that they would actually hold a battle against you." Oh believers, they say Hur, he sat down before Imam Hussein with a broken heart, telling him, "Inni ta'ibun, فهل ترى لي من توبة?" I come to you repentant of what has happened to me. Is there a way for me to repent? The Imam told him, "Na'am yatubullah alayk." Yes, Allah would accept your repentance. Oh believers, they say before the noon prayer on the 10th day of Muharram, the two camps, the enemies of Allah on one side with 20,000 soldiers, and the companions of Imam Hussein, at least 72 people on that day. They say Umar ibn Sa'd facing the camp of Imam Hussein as he was leading the camp of the enemies of Allah. They say he called everyone, he grabbed everyone's attention. Ayyuhan nas, O people, ishhadu li 'inda al-amir, be my witness for Ibn Ziyad. What happened in that moment? They say Umar ibn Sa'd, he took his arrow, he charged it, and he threw it towards the camp of Imam Hussein, and all the soldiers with him, they start throwing the arrows towards the camp of Imam Hussein. Hussein. When the arrows start coming to the camp of Imam Hussein, they say, our beloved Imam, he looked at his companions and he told them, قوموا رحمكم الله إلى الموت الذي لا بد منه. Rise to this death which is written upon you. They say, the Imam then told them, فإن هذه السهام رسل القوم إليكم. These arrows are the messengers of these people for you. O believers, they say, the companions of our beloved Imam and the army of Yazid, La'natullahi alayh, each one on one side having the first trials, the first war engaged between them. They say, as they were fighting, the dust of the land of Karbala filling the crowd like a cloud. When they stopped, they say the dust went down and a lot of the enemies of Allah were killed by the companions of Imam Hussein. They say Muslim ibn Awsajah, he stepped forward fighting the enemies of Allah, followed by other companions of Imam Hussein. Another companion, his name was Nafi', also he came forward fighting the enemies of Allah. Then they say Burair, he stepped forward onto the battlefield. Burair was a righteous servant of Allah, a worshipper, a reciter of the Holy Quran. They said he used to be called the master of the reciters, and he was honored amongst his tribe, the Hamadanis. They say Yazid ibn Ma'qal, he called out, O Burair, how have you found what God has done to you? They say Burair replied, God has done good by me and left you to your evil. They say Yazid told him, you lie and you have never been a liar before. They say, do you remember? And he told him, do you remember when I was walking beside you in the land? They say, and you told me Muawiyah is misguided and Imam Ali is the guidance. Burair replied, yes, I witness to my opinion. They say Yazid told him, I witness that you are misguided. They said Burair called him to the Mubahala, each raising their hand and praying to Allah Almighty would curse the liar and lead him to his death. They charged at one another, fought until Burair struck Yazid on his head, splitting the helmet and the skull. He fell as if he was thrown off a cliff, while Burair's sword was stuck on his skull. They say, and while Burair was attempting to extract his sword, another enemy of Allah attacked him, tackling him to the ground and wrestling him. They say Burair, he was able to beat the enemy of Allah. Oh believers, and he started calling the companions for help. Another companion, he charged with Burair, while an enemy of Allah, he started charging on them and calling, that is Burair, the reciter who used to recite the Quran to us in the masjid of Kufa. But they say, oh believers, they did not care while they're stopping Burair and killing Burair and killing the enemy and killing the companions of Imam Hussein, one after each other. Oh believers, they say after that, Amr advanced at the direction of Furat, where all the parties, both parties, they clashed and they were fighting with each other. They say another companion of our beloved Imam Hussein, Muslim ibn Awsajah, they say he was one of the warriors that he was with our beloved Imam Hussein. He went to the battlefield and he started fighting the enemies of Allah. They say when Muslim fall on the ground, he called our beloved Imam Hussein Hussein, Assalamu alayka ya Sayyidi wa Mawlai ya Aba Abdullah. O believers, another companion of our beloved Imam Hussein, Muslim ibn Awsaja, he came forward to the battlefield fighting the enemies of Allah. They say the enemies of Allah, they started surrounding Muslim one after each other as they were attacking him. Another time the dust covered the battlefield. They say as the dust calmed down, the Muslim ibn Awsaja was laying down on the land of Karbala, calling Assalamu alayka ya Aba Abdullah. They say our beloved Imam Hussein with a companion Habib ibn Mudahir, they charged towards Muslim, and when they arrived to Muslim, our beloved Imam Hussein, he told him, Rahimakallah ya Muslim, فمنهم من قضى نحبه ومنهم من ينتظر وما بدلوا تبديلا. May Allah have mercy on you. There are some amongst them who have fulfilled their pledge, and some of them who still wait, and they have not changed in the least. They say, Habib, he came near Muslim telling him, Azza alayya masra'uka ya Muslim, abshir bil Jannah. Your death has taken a toll on me, O Muslim. I give you a glad tidings of paradise. Muslim replied to him, Basharakallah bi khair. May Allah give you a glad tidings of all that is good. Habib, then he told him, if I did not know that I am following in your footsteps, I would have liked for you to give me your will so I can execute your will. They say Muslim replied and told him, my will is this man, and he pointed to our beloved Imam Hussein, and that you die aiding him. Habib told him, by the Lord of Kaaba, I will. Then Muslim quickly perished. O believers, inna lillah wa inna ilayhi raji'un. They say Habib ibn Mudahir, then he set out to the battlefield. Then Habib ibn Mudahir came to our beloved Imam, asking him for permission and to go and fight in the battlefield of Karbala. Habib stood by our beloved Imam Hussein to take his permission, but Habib, right there and then, when he stood before our beloved Imam Hussein, he started crying. His tears started coming out of his eyes, coming down from his eyes. Our beloved Imam Hussein told him, Ya Habib, maybe you remember the family, maybe you remember the children. He said, Habib, you can go, you don't have to stay and fight. They say, Habib, he told him, Sayyidi wa Mawlai, oh my master, it is not that I remembered the family. My tears are not because I remembered my children. My tears are because of the lady standing right there behind you. They say our beloved Imam Hussein, he turns around there and he sees Lady Zainab standing. She was looking at what's happening in the land of Karbala. Habib, he used to care for our Lady Zainab. After that, they say, oh believers, Habib, when he fought the enemies of Allah, they surrounded him and they struck him, and he fell on the ground in the land of Karbala. One after each other, the companions of our beloved Imam Hussein, they came forward fighting the enemies of Allah. all alone our beloved Imam Hussein, when all his companions, when all they came forward and fought the enemies of Allah, they were all murdered for our beloved Imam Hussein. Our beloved Imam start calling them, Ya Habib, Ya Zuhair, Ya Muslim, Ya Abtal al-Safa, wa Fursan al-Hayja. Why is it that I call you and you do not answer me? Why is it that I call your name and there is no response? Asleep are you? Wake up. Gharib, Mazloom, Hussein. O believers, as our beloved Imam standing in the land of Karbala, calling Waqillata Nasira, Ala min Nasirin yansuruna, Ala min Mu'inin yu'inuna. Is there any supporter that he shall come forward and support us? Is there anyone who can provide any aid to us? But our beloved Imam, he's alone with his household in the land of Karbala. They say the first one amongst the household of Imam Hussein, amongst his family who came forward, is his son Ali al-Akbar. Our beloved Imam Hussein, when Ali came to take the permission to go and fight in the land of Karbala, our beloved Imam Hussein, he raised his hands to the skies and said, Oh Allah, witness on these people. Oh Allah, witness what has happened to them. This young man, he looks like so much like the Prophet of Allah, is going out to the battlefield. When we used to miss the Prophet of Allah, we used to call him to look at him. Oh believers, Ali al-Akbar went to the battlefield. He started fighting the enemies of Allah. As he was fighting the enemies of Allah, they say our beloved Imam Hussein, he was looking at the battlefield and he suddenly looked worried as he was fighting one of the enemies of Allah who used to be a strong enemy, a strong warrior in the land of Karbala. His mother, the mother of Ali al-Akbar, she was looking at Imam Hussein. As she saw his face, she started running and calling Imam Hussein. What happened to my son Ali? He told her to go and pray for him. They say, oh believers, they say, oh believers, at that moment Ali al-Akbar, he was able to strike the enemy of Allah, and he came back to Imam Hussein. Our beloved Imam told him to go and see his mother in the tent. He went to the tent, giving the last farewell to his mother. His mother told him to stay and not to leave her. He told her, oh mother, on the day of hereafter, when Lady Fatima stands and all the women come forward and they tell her, I gave my son for your son Hussein, I give my husband for your son Hussein, I give my father for your son Hussein. I want you to stand proudly and say, I give my son for your son Hussein. At that moment they say, oh believers, she gave him the permission to go again and fight in the land of Karbala. They say Ali al-Akbar, he went back again into the battlefield. They say as he was fighting the enemies of Allah with the courage of his grandfather Ali, he was fighting them. They knew they cannot face Ali al-Akbar one-to-one. They started throwing arrows at him. They started throwing rocks at him. They say the arrow arrows came at Ali al-Akbar from all the directions. He fell on the horse. His blood covered the eyes of the horse. The horse, instead of taking Ali al-Akbar to the camp of Imam Hussein, the horse took Ali al-Akbar to the camp of the enemies of Allah. They say they brought Ali al-Akbar on the ground. They started striking him with the knives and the swords and cutting him into the pieces. He called, Assalamu alayka ya Aba ya Hussein. Salutations be upon you, O Father Hussein. Our beloved Imam charged towards Ali al-Akbar. He told him, Bunay Ali ala dunya ba'daka al-afa. O Ali, O son Ali. They say our beloved Imam Hussein standing there, seeing the soul of his son Ali al-Akbar departing. O believers, they say then the rest of Bani Hashim, they started coming out, fighting for our beloved Imam Hussein, one after each other. Abdullah ibn Muslim, Muhammad ibn Muslim ibn Aqil, Ja'far ibn Aqil, Abdul Rahman ibn Aqil, one after each other. Aoun ibn Abdullah, other companions and other Hashimis, they came forward to fight for our beloved Imam Hussein. They say then al-Qasim, he came to take the permission of our beloved Imam Hussein to fight in the battlefield in the land of Karbala. O believers, they say al-Qasim, when he came to take the permission from our beloved Imam Hussein, he told him, O Qasim, you're still young, your mother has no one except you, go back to the tent. They say when he came back, he was very sad, for his uncle didn't give him the permission to go and fight in the land of Karbala. They say the mother of Qasim, she came She came and she gave him a letter from his father telling him, when you see your uncle Hussein in the land of Karbala, go and support him. She gave him the clothing of Imam Hassan and the sword of Imam Hassan. He went again, he seek the permission of our beloved Imam Hussein. When Imam Hussein looked at him, they say our beloved Imam hugged him until he fell on the ground, and then he gave him the permission to go and fight the enemies of Allah. They say al-Qasim, he went and he fought in the battlefield as he was fighting the enemies of Allah. They say his slipper was torn as he went down to fight, as he went down to fix his slipper. They say an enemy of Allah, he came from behind and he struck him on his head. He fell on the ground calling, Am ya Hussein, oh Uncle Hussein. They say our beloved Imam Hussein, he came to him and told him, Bunay Qasim, it is so hard for your uncle to hear your voice and your call, and he cannot provide you any help or any aid. At that moment, he told him, Assalamu alayka ya Sayyidi ya Aba Abdullah. Oh believers, they say after all Bani Hashim and all the family members of Imam Hussein, all the warriors, when they all came forward fighting in the land of Karbala, and there was no one left but Al-Abbas, the brother of Imam Hussein. Al-Abbas came forward taking the permission of Imam Hussein, telling him, my master Hussein, give me the permission to go and fight in the land of Karbala. They say Al-Hussein told him, Dear Abbas, you are the only one left for me here. You are my army. You are the holder of my banner. O believers, they say Al-Abbas, as he was walking back to the tent, Sukaina came and she told him, Abbas. She came with all the children calling, Al-Atash, 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 Al-Ma, Al-Ma, Al-Ma. Uncle Abbas, I'm thirsty. The children are thirsty. We want some water. They say when the children gathered around Al-Abbas asking for water, Lady Zainab came. She came to Al-Abbas telling him, bring some water to the children. They are all thirsty. Sukaina was there. Our beloved Master Abbas told Lady Zainab to come with me. Come with me, let's go to Hussein and ask for permission to go and bring some water. Sayyidi wa Mawlai Aba Abdullah, if you don't permit me to go and fight, then give me the permission to go and bring some water from the river. They say, oh believers, as our beloved Imam, as our beloved Al-Abbas, as he was preparing himself, going to bring some water, he held the banner in one hand, the sword in another hand. He pulled the bag of water on his neck. They say, remembering Sukaina, giving her the farewell, promising her to bring some water. They say as he carried the banner and the sword and the bag, he rushed towards the river to bring some water. They say the river was covered with 4,000 soldiers protecting and guarding the water, so no water arrives to our beloved Imam Hussein. But Al-Abbas, charging like a warrior, like his father Ali, with the image of Sukaina in his mind, going to the river. They say he was able and he managed to reach to the river. At that moment, he went down, he held the water, looking at the water, remembering his mother as she is teaching him, you should not take any water or drink any water before your brother Hussein. He remembers the thirst of Hussein. At that moment, he throws the water and he starts saying, Ya nafsu min ba'di al-Hussein huni, wa ba'dahu la kunti aw takuni. O self, you have no value after Hussein. They say, of course, he didn't drink any water. He filled the bag of water, he put it on his shoulder, and he started charging back towards the camp of Imam Hussein. They say Amr ibn Sa'd, at that moment, he ordered the enemies of Allah, telling them, stop him, he should never be allowed to get to the water to Hussein. By Allah, if the water reaches Hussein, Hussein will kill you all. They had the fear, they had that much fear, making sure no water reaches our beloved Imam Hussein or the children and the women. But Al-Abbas, he was fighting them and going towards the camp of Imam Hussein. They knew they are not able to fight Al-Abbas face to face. They say an enemy of Allah. At that moment, he hid himself behind a palm tree, waiting for Al-Abbas. As Al-Abbas was passing near the tree, they say the enemy of Allah, from behind the tree, he struck the right hand of Al-Abbas. They say his right hand fall on the ground, but Al-Abbas starts calling, Wallahi in qata'tumu yamini, inni uhami abadan an dini. By Allah, if you cut my right hand, I still will protect and defend my faith and protect and defend my truthful Imam. They say, oh believers, believers, Al-Abbas, he kept rushing towards the camp of Imam Hussein. He did not stop. But they say, oh believers, at that moment another enemy of Allah, again hiding behind another tree, he caught the left arm of Imam Hussein, Al-Abbas. They say he caught the left arm of Al-Abbas. At that moment, Al-Abbas has no arm left to hold the sword or the banner. Oh believer, he continued going towards the camp. They say the enemies of Allah, they started throwing arrows at Al-Abbas from all directions. A lot of arrows coming to Al-Abbas, hitting his head, hitting his neck, hitting his chest. Another arrow hit his eye, oh believers, and his face was covered with the blood. But another arrow that hit the water burned the heart of Abbas as he wanted to take the water to the children and to the woman. They say an enemy of Allah, he came from behind holding an iron axe. They say he struck the head of Al-Abbas. Oh believers, Al-Abbas at that moment, he fell from his horse. When someone falls on the ground, he holds the ground with his arms, but without any arms, he falls on his face. At that moment, Al-Abbas, who never called Imam Hussein except saying Sayyidi wa Mawlai, he called him and he told him, Akhi ya Hussein, oh brother Hussein. Oh believers, they say our beloved Imam Hussein, with a broken heart, he started rushing towards Abbas. As he approached Abbas, one eye with an arrow, the other one covered with blood, was not able to see who's approaching him. He told, oh man, give me few moments before killing me. I want to talk to my brother Hussein. Oh believers, that man who was next to Al-Abbas was his brother Hussein. He told him, Akhi ya Abbas. At that moment he sat down, he put the head of Abbas on his lap. Al-Abbas refused and he took his head again on the ground. They say again and again, Al-Abbas kept refusing. Our beloved Imam Hussein told him, Akhi ya Abbas, why is it that when I move your head, you move it back on the ground? He told him, Sayyidi, now I have you to put my head on your lap, but soon, who would put your head on their lap? Oh believers, they say Al-Abbas asked Imam Hussein and he told him, Akhi ya Hussein, brother Hussein, I have a request. He said, I don't have any arms, I cannot do anything. Can you please wipe my eye from the blood? I want to see you one more time before I die. And I have another request. Oh brother, please don't take me back to the tent, don't take me back to the camp. They say Al-Hussein asked him why. He told him, I promised Sukaina with water, I promised Zainab with water. I don't want to break my promise. I am not able to fulfill my promise, so leave me here alone. They say at that moment, Al-Abbas opened his eyes for the last time and he looked at Imam al-Hussein, then he looked at the skies and he says, أشهد أن لا إله إلا الله وأشهد أن محمدا رسول الله السلام عليك سيدي يا أبا عبد الله. At that moment, the soul of Al-Abbas departed. Our beloved Imam Hussein, barely able to stand as his back was bended, he said, الآن انكسر ظهري. Oh believers, at this moment, our beloved Imam Hussein, he stood up with his back arched while he was walking back to the camp. Lady Zainab is waiting for Al-Abbas. Lady Zainab, she knew Al-Hussein, he went to bring and see Al-Abbas. When Imam Hussein came, they say he didn't say anything. He went right back to the tent. He bring the pole of the tent down. The whole tent fall on the ground. They say the ladies and the women, they were all shocked, saying the tent of Al-Abbas falling on the ground. It means that the owner of the tent is dead. Lady Zainab telling him, Ya Hassan, oh brother Hussein, Abbas, where is Al-Abbas? Oh believers, Sukaina comes to Imam Hussein, Abba ya Hussein, oh father Hussein, where is my uncle Al-Abbas? He promised us with some water. He told her, Bunayya, Sukaina, عظم الله لك الأجر بعمك العباس إنا لله وَإِنَّا إِلَيْهِ رَاجِعُونَ. They say, oh believers, at that moment our beloved Imam Hussein, all alone in the land of Karbala, with no one defending him. The only man was our beloved Imam Zainul Abidin, but he was sick and he was not able to go and fight in the land of Karbala. They say our beloved Imam Hussein calling the enemies of Allah for one last time, telling them هل من ذاب يذب عن حرم رسول الله, and he wants to protect the family of the woman of the Prophet. هل من مغيث يرجو الله في إغاثتنا, and he wants seeking God's closeness through helping us and aiding us, but no one answering our beloved Imam Hussein, all alone, stranger in the land of Karbala. Then our beloved Imam Hussein, he called all the ladies and the women to give them the farewell, because he is all alone to go and fight in the battlefield in the land of Karbala. Ya Zainab, Ya Kulthum, Ya Fatima, Ya Sukaina, alaykunna minni salam, giving them the farewell. They say he called Lady Zainab, asking her to bring the horse. Oh believers, Lady Zainab saying, أي أخت تقدم لأخيها فرس المنون. Oh, to a sister who brings to her brother the horse of death. Oh believers, then Lady Zainab called all the women and all the children. قوموا إلى التودي, stand up to give the farewell, as my brother called for the horse of death. They say all the women came surrounding Imam Hussein, calling and giving him the farewell. They say Sukaina looking at him, Abba ya Hussein, astaslamta lil maut, did you surrender to the death? He told her, when no one has any aid or help or support, what else can he do? They say Sukaina told him, Abba ya Hussein, ruddana ila harami jaddina, take us back to the city of our grandfather. They say he told her, Sukaina, keep and save your tears and cries. A more struggling days are coming for you. Oh believers, as Imam Hussein prepared to leave to the battlefield, he had a son with the name Abdullah. They came, Lady Zainab brought Abdullah to him, and she told him, before you go and fight, oh brother Hussein, ask for some water for this child and for all the other children. They say our beloved Imam Hussein, he went to the battlefield taking Abdullah. He raised him to the sky and he told them, in lam tarhamuni farhamu ارحموا هذا الطفل. If you don't have any mercy on me, have mercy on this infant child. They say, Imam Hussein told them, if there was a sin to the adults and the elders, what is the sin of this infant baby? Why don't you give him some water? They say the enemies of Allah, they started disputing, some saying give him water, some saying don't give them any water. And that time Umar ibn Sa'd, he looked at Harmala, he told him, Ya Harmala, اقطع نزاع القوم. Oh Harmala, stop the argument. Harmala looking at the infant as Imam Hussein rising him to the sky, that tight baby, they say as he was raising him, he was wrapped with a cloth. Harmala charged his arrow, looking at the moment, they say a wind came, uncovered the neck of Abdullah. At that time Harmala, he threw his arrow, and the arrow hit the neck of Abdullah, and all his neck and his body was covered with blood. Our beloved Imam, he took some of the blood and he threw it to the sky, and he says, it was made easy that all of this is for the sake of Allah. Oh believers, as our beloved Imam Hussein, he wanted to give the farewell again and goes and fight the enemies of Allah. He started calling them in the land of Karbala, Ya Shi'ata Ali Abi Sufyan, in lam yakun lakum deen wa kuntum la takhafun al-ma'ad, fakunu ahrar fi dunyakum. If you have no faith, O the followers of Al Abi Sufyan, and you do not fear the hereafter, be free in this life and leave us all alone. They said the enemies of Allah, they tried to come around the camp, they tried to burn the camp and shoot the camp with the woman all alone. But Imam Hussein, he came back defending the woman and the children, and he was able to push back all the enemies of Allah. Now our beloved Imam Hussein came back to Lady Zainab. He was giving his last farewell, O believers. This time Lady Zainab, as Imam Hussein was about to leave to the battlefield, as she saw Imam Hussein leaving after the last farewell, she suddenly remembered something. She called him, Akhi ya Hussein, come back to me. Imam Hussein looked at her, looked at his sister, calling him. They say as she was signaling him to come back, our beloved Imam Hussein, he came back to Lady Zainab. He came down from his horse, he looked at his sister. They say Lady Zainab at that moment, she hugged him, and then she kissed him, and then she looked towards Medina saying, Oh mother Fatima, this is the trust is back in your hand. Imam Hussein looked at Lady Zainab. Lady Zainab told him, our mother Fatima, before she departed this life, she called me and she said, Zainab, come here. Then she hugged me and she kissed me and she told me, this is not for you. This is when you see your brother Hussein all alone in the land of Karbala. Tell him this is the farewell of your mother Fatima. Oh believers, they say our beloved Imam Hussein, he went to the battlefield. He started fighting the enemies of Allah. No one was able to stand before Imam Hussein. They say Imam Hussein would go to the right flank, then would go to the left flank, and then he goes into the heart of the enemies of Allah. No one was able to stop him. They say they would not dare to fight him one-to-one. Imam Hussein, he would strike anyone who stopped him and who stands before him. Our beloved Imam Hussein, such a warrior, no one able to and no one dares to fight him. Oh believers, they realize that they cannot fight Imam Hussein one-to-one and close to him. They went far away. They started throwing the arrows, hundreds of arrows coming towards our beloved Imam Hussein. They start throwing him with ropes until, oh believers, our beloved Imam Hussein, they say another enemy of Allah, his name was Abu al-Hatub. They say he threw an arrow, it came right in the forehead of our beloved Imam Hussein. They say our beloved Imam, he took the blood in that time, our believers, from his head, and he wiped it on his beard and face, and he says, Wallah, I will face God this way, and I will tell him who did this to me. They say our beloved Imam Hussein, he was still riding his horse when he was struck again by another arrow. They say a three-pronged arrow came to his chest, and another one who hit him right on his waist, and another one hit him, and hundreds of arrows from every side hitting our beloved Imam Hussein. They started attacking him from all the directions, not one, not two, with many arrows hitting our beloved Imam Hussein. Then they start striking him with their swords, trying to bring him down from his horse. Oh believers, our beloved Imam, he was covered with blood, with arrows, with swords striking him until he fell on the ground, calling Bismillah wa billah wa ala millati Rasulillah. They say our beloved Imam, lying down in the land of Karbala on the ground, they say they would come to him with their sword as he was lying on the land of Karbala full of arrows, all the arrows, oh believers, the enemies of Allah, they would hit our beloved Imam with their swords as he was lying on the ground in the land of Karbala. They say, as Imam Hussein lying on the ground, a son of our beloved Imam Hassan, his name was Abdullah. He was a young kid looking at the battlefield, looking at his uncle on the ground of Karbala. He managed to escape from the woman, and he went to defend his uncle near in the land of Karbala. As he was laying down, they say a soldier who came to strike Imam Hussein, Abdullah, he held the sword with his hand, and his hand was cut off because he was trying to defend Imam Hussein. He fell right next to his uncle Imam Hussein in the land of Karbala. Oh believers, they say Imam Hussein just lying there on the ground, supplicating to Allah, praying for Allah Azza wa Jal. Everyone is coming around. No one is daring to kill our beloved Imam Hussein. Every tribe does not want to carry the blood of Imam Hussein. They would just go around Imam Hussein. But the horse of Imam Hussein, they say as he was near Imam Hussein, going around him, as they looked at him, Amr ibn Sa'd, he told the army, leave the horse, let's see what this horse does. He said, go, let's see what he will do. They say the horse came to Imam Hussein, kissing Imam Hussein and wiping his head with the blood of Imam Hussein. Then he rushed back to the camp. They say in the camp, all the ladies looking at the horse without Imam Hussein, full with the blood. Oh believers, when they looked at him, they start hugging the horse. They start crying. They start weeping for our beloved Imam Hussein. At that moment, oh believers, they say Lady Zainab looking from the hill at the battlefield from one side, and at the other side the camp with the woman. When she saw her brother Hussein laying down on the land of Karbala, she started running to our Imam Hussein. They say Amr ibn Sa'd, he ordered the army to stop. Lady Zainab. Lady Zainab approached our beloved Imam Hussein. Our beloved Imam Hussein, he was not able to answer her. She told him, Akhi ya Aba Abdullah, answer me. And he wasn't able to answer her. She told him, for the sake of our grandfather, answer me. He was not able to answer her. She told him, بحق أبي Ali, answer me. He was not able to answer her. She told him, بحق أمنا الزهراء, answer me. He opened his eyes and he told her, أخي Zainab, you broke my heart. What do you want from me? Go back to the tent, go back to the woman, go back and protect them. They say Lady Zainab, she raised her hand, she said, Allahumma taqabbal minna hadha al-qurban. At that moment, our beloved Imam Hussein, all alone in the land of Karbala, laying down on the grounds of Karbala. No one is daring to go and end him and kill our beloved Imam Hussein. They say Umar ibn Sa'd, la'natullah alayh, he ordered and he says, Anzilu warihu, go down and end the man. They say every soldier looking at each other, no one is daring to do anything. Oh believers, at that moment they say Shem, he came forward. Shem would go to Imam Hussein. He had an iron slipper. He used to hit the body of our beloved Imam with every side. Then he went and he sat on the chest of our beloved Imam. Our beloved Imam looking at Shem, telling him, Ataqtuluni, you kill me, don't you know who I am? Don't you know who I am? They say Shem, yes. He answered him, yes, I know who you are. I know your mother is Zahra. I know your father is Ali. I know your grandfather is Muhammad. They say at that moment, oh believers, at that moment, oh believers, they say Shem, he sat on our beloved Imam Hussein's chest and he murdered our beloved Imam Hussein. Inna lillah wa inna ilayhi raji'un. وسيعلم الذين ظلموا أي منقلب ينقلبون والعاقبة للمتقين.
Ya Sayyid, Ya Sayyid, Ya Sayyid, Ya Sayyid, Ya Sayyid, Ya Sayyid, Ya Sayyid. लो निशा फातिमा मिट गया कुतिल हुसैन भी करबलाए फलक से आती थी सदा कुतिल हुसैन भी करबलाए फलक से आती थी सदा कुतिल हुसैन भी करबला बुझी बाद जुल्मे शम्म दिन हुए बिन इमाम के मोमिनीन बुझी बाद जुल्मे शम्म दिन हुए बिन इमाम के मोमिनीन ज़ुबिहल हुसैन भी करबला कुतिल हुसैन भी करबला फलक से आती थी सदा कुतिल हुसैन भी करबला फलक से आती थी सदा कुतिल हुसैन भी करबला जिगरे हसन पे चुरी जली हुआ पाश पाश दिले अली, जिगरे हसन पे चुरी चली, हुआ पाश पाश दिले अली, लहरे नबी को ज़लज़ला, क़ुतिल हुसैन बिकरबला, फलक से आती थी सदा, क़ुतिल हुसैन बिकरबला, फलक से आती थी सदा, क़ुतिल हुसैन बिकरबला। ये बतूल कहती है पीट कर के मैं लुट गई मेरी लो खबर, ये बतूल कहती है पीट कर के मैं लुट गई मेरी लो खबर, मेरे दस दरस मेरे तेब्रिया, क़ुतिल हुसैन बिकरबला, फलक से आती थी सदा, क़ुतिल हुसैन बिकरबला, फलक से आती थी सदा, क़ुतिल हुसैन बिकरबला।
बिस्मिल्लाहिर्रहमानिर्रहीम। अस्सलामु अलैका या वारिथ आदम सफ़वतिल्लाह, अस्सलामु अलैका या वारिथ नूह नबीयिल्लाह, अस्सलामु अलैका या वारिथ इब्राहीम खलीलिल्लाह, अस्सलामु अलैका या वारिथ मूसा कलीमिल्लाह, अस्सलामु अलैका या वारिथ ईसा रूहिल्लाह, अस्सलामु अलैका या वारिथ मुहम्मदिन हबीबिल्लाह, अस्सलामु अलैका या वारिथ अलीय्यिन अमीरिल मुअ्मिनीन वलिय्यिल्लाह, अस्सलामु अलैका या वारिथ अल-हसन अश-शहीद सिब्त रसूलिल्लाह, अस्सलामु अलैका या इब्न रसूलिल्लाह, अस्सलामु अलैका या इब्न al-बशीर an-नज़ीर वब्न सय्यद al-वसीय्यीन, अस्सलामु अलैका या इब्न फ़ातिमत सय्यदती निसाइल आलमीन, अस्सलामु अलैका या अबा अब्दिल्लाह, अस्सलामु अलैका या खीरत अल्लाह वब्न खीरतिह, अस्सलामु अलैका अय्युहल वित्रुल मौतूर, अस्सलामु अलैका अय्युहल इमामुल हादिज़ ज़की, व अला अरवाहिन हल्लत बिफ़िनाइक व अक़ामत फ़ी जिवारिक व वफ़दत मअ ज़ुवारिक, अस्सलामु अलैका मिन्नी मा बक़ीतु व बक़िय अल-लैल वन-नहार, फलक़द अज़मत बिका अर्रज़िय्यह वजल्ल المصاب في المؤمنين والمسلمين وفي أهل السماوات أجمعين وفي سكان الأرضين، فإنا لله وإنا إليه راجعون، وصلوات الله وبركاته وتحياته عليك وعلى آبائك الطاهرين الطيبين المنتجبين، وعلى ذراريهم الهداة المهديين. السلام عليك يا مولاي، وعليهم وعلى روحك وعلى أرواحهم وعلى تربتك وعلى تربتهم، اللهم لقهم رحمة ورضوانا وروحا وريحانا. السلام عليك يا مولاي يا أبا عبد الله، يا ابن خاتم النبيين، ويا ابن سيد الوصين، ويا ابن سيدتي نساء العالمين. السلام عليك يا شهيد، يا ابن الشهيد، يا أخ الشهيد، يا أبا الشهداء، اللهم بلغه عني في هذه الساعة وفي هذا اليوم وفي هذا الوقت وفي كل وقت تحية كثيرة وسلاما. سلام الله عليك ورحمة الله وبركاته يا ابن سيد العالمين، وعلى المستشهدين معك سلاما متصلا ما اتصل الليل والنهار. السلام على الحسين بن علي الشهيد، السلام على علي بن الحسين الشهيد، السلام على العباس بن أمير المؤمنين الشهيد، السلام على الشهداء من ولد أمير المؤمنين، السلام على الشهداء من ولد الحسن، السلام على الشهداء من ولد الحسين، السلام على الشهداء من ولد جعفر وعقيل، السلام على كل مستشهد معهم من المؤمنين. اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد وبلغهم عني تحية كثيرة وسلاما. السلام عليك يا رسول الله، أحسن الله لك العزاء في ولدك الحسين. السلام عليك يا فاطمة، أحسن الله لك العزاء في ولدك الحسين. السلام عليك يا أمير المؤمنين، أحسن الله لك العزاء في ولدك الحسين. السلام عليك يا أبا محمد الحسن، أحسن الله لك العزاء في أخيك الحسين. يا مولاي يا أبا عبد الله، أنا ضيف الله وضيفك، وجار الله وجارك، ولكل ضيف وجار قرى، وقراي في هذا الوقت أن تسأل الله سبحانه وتعالى أن يرزقني فكاك رقبتي من النار، إنه سميع الدعاء قريب مجيب. السلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته.